اللهم صل وسلم.
ما هو العلم? What makes something as a fact? When someone make a claim, what makes that a fact? Evidence. فالعلم أو الحقيقة هو قول مطابق للواقع مقطوع به وعليه دليل. There's something that makes sense and you have a proof. That's what makes something a fact. What makes something تقليد, copying. When you make a statement, you heard it from someone trustworthy, but you don't have an evidence. You're just copying him. You know, sometimes people copy others without evidence, and when they see others doing something wrong, like when the Prophet came to their people, say, "Inna wajadna aba'ana la ummatan." He said, "We found our parents doing it, so we're doing it." You don't have evidence. You're just copying. So you have fact, you have copying, and then you have jahl, ignorance. Ignorance when you say something that does not make sense and you don't have a proof. So you remove the proof and it doesn't make sense, become ignorant. Like if someone tells you, so and so did wudu at Isha, he prayed Isha, and then he prayed the entire night, and then he prayed the Fajr with the wudu from Isha. Does that make sense? Humanly impossible. The Prophet didn't do it. And he doesn't have a proof because he read it in some book. Right? Or when someone tells you, so and so can do sujood for like, when someone tells you, so and so did sujood for 4 or 5 hours. You know, the bird was sitting on his back, mashallah. And it's humanly impossible. And he didn't see it, he read it in a book. So you don't accept it. As a Muslim person, as a believer, you don't accept things without fact. You don't just get emotional about a certain story. If it doesn't make sense and you don't have a proof, you don't even pay attention to it. So now we have fact, you have ignorance, you have copying, and then you have now the other spectrum, the suspicion. The suspicion, you have wahm, you have shak, or zan. So, yeah, you have shak, or zan, or wahm. So, al-wahm, delusion, when you're like 23% certain, it's a wahm. Now, if you are 50% certain, that's shak, suspicion. If you're 90% certain, that's zan. Now it's like assumption. Okay, it's a spectrum. So if 90% almost, you're 90% certain, but you're not 100% certain, that's zan. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu ijtanibu kathiran min al-zan, inna ba'da al-zanni. They say, oh, you have believed, avoid much of the negative assumption. Indeed, some of the assumption is sin. So even if you're 90% certain, you avoid it. If you have a bad assumption of your brother, even if you're 90% certain, discard it. So if he's telling you to avoid the zan, which is high level of certainty, how about things that less than that? A shak or delusion, all of that. You should avoid that. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to eliminate, even if like 90% certain, you say eliminate that, don't think bad of your brother. To keep the connection between the brothers, like the love and the collaboration, all that, to be the community healthy. That's the reason. Not to have bad assumption of each other and the fighting and disagreeing and all of that. لذلك قالوا سوء الظن بالمسلمين فهو محرم. To have bad assumption of your brother. Forbidden. There's a verse you say, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. وعن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إياكم والظن فإن الظن أكذب الحديث. Said avoid assumptions. So you always think good of your brother. You avoid bad assumption. Because if you have bad assumption, you're not certain, you don't have a proof, but like you think like this is like in your mind is like very highly possible, you avoid it. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in Surah An-Nur, قال لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا. He said when he heard it, did not the believing men, believing women think good of each of one another and say this is an obvious falsehood. So do not accept anything without proof. And don't build your life on assumptions. You know, sometimes what happens is what we think inside of us, we apply it to others. For example, a person who is a liar, think everyone is lying to him. And a person who is innocent, think everyone is innocent. Right? Because we just think, because I think that way, he must think that way. And for example, when Prophet Musa came to Pharaoh to deliver the message, what did Pharaoh think? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قالوا أجئتنا لتلفتنا عما وجدنا عليه قالوا أجئتنا لتلفتنا عما وجدنا عليه آباءنا وتكون لكم الكبرياء في الأرض وما نحن لكما بمؤمنين. He said, have you come to us to turn us away from that which we were found our fathers on? But look over the next statement. So that the two of you will have grandeur in land. So Pharaoh thought that Musa came to take his position. You know, because Pharaoh thinks that he has to be a leader, he has to have the authority, he has to be a dictator, and he thinks everyone who's coming to advise him wants to take that from him. So he had bad assumption of Prophet Musa, you know, because he thinks that way. You know, because Pharaoh thinks that everyone wants to take his position, or everyone wants to be like him. That bad assumption, right? And then people of Prophet Noah, what did they say? فقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يريد أن يتفضل عليكم. He said, the eminent among those who disbelieve from his people said, this is none but a man like yourself, who wishes to take precedent over you. He just wants to become a leader over you. They didn't think that the guy is inviting them to believe in Allah and all that. No. He just wants to be a leader. Like if someone come and advise you, he said, he has bad intention behind this. He's not advising. He wants to be something. He wants some gain, some leadership position. That's don't build your life on assumption. Some people, you know, think that happiness is in money, end up having money become miserable. He built his life on bad assumption. Or think that he's marrying a beautiful wife is a happiness. End up marrying a beautiful wife and his life is miserable. Because he built his life in what? On bad assumption. That's what Allah talks about the non-believer. He said, وَمَا يَتَّبِعُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ إِلَّا ظَنَّ إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. They're just building their life on assumptions. Or he think, you know, that mingling men and women is liberty or civilization. End up like disaster happening from that, right? He built his on bad assumption, not on a fact. So don't build your life on bad assumptions and be like the kuffar of Quraysh, for example. They said they worship the idol because they think they will intercede for them. وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. They build their life on bad assumptions. As a Muslim, as a believer, you build your life on facts, on proof. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and forgive us. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.